In this video, I'm going to talk about a positive attitude versus a negative attitude. Suppose a person has some problem, an issue that needs to be dealt with, or an unwanted situation which is difficult for him. Generally speaking, we can notice two ways of handling such a situation. There are people that, despite the problem that they have in their life, they still generally keep a smile. They treat pleasantly themselves and others. They remain optimistic. They handle it in the best way that they can, and they adopt a positive attitude as much as possible. They do what they can, and they accept what they cannot do. And so they handle the problem in a productive and positive way. In contrast, there are other people, perhaps most people, but maybe I'm wrong, that constantly complain and constantly deal with the problem, think about it and talk about it incessantly. They mention all the time how horrible it is, how the situation is catastrophic, how poor and miserable they are, how terrible things will be. And they are very high on the ladder of suffering. Psychological studies show that these two approaches do not generally depend on the type of the problem that the person is facing, but on the character of the person, and on the way that the person learned how to handle problems. Meaning, there are people who remain smiley, optimistic, and keep a positive attitude and a useful attitude, even in situations that are very difficult, that everyone would agree that they are very difficult. And in contrast, there are people who constantly complain on the smallest things, such as the quality of the food in the airplane, or a small number of not having enough cashiers in the supermarket. Now, as an evidence for this claim, you're welcome to look on the page of the inspiring stories. These are stories of people who went through accidents, serious illness, wars, and other difficult experiences, and despite that, they kept a positive attitude towards themselves and others, optimism, being productive, and loving life. And some of them were actually very happy, sometimes happier than people who have everything. Now, it's possible that in compared to their trouble, your problems and troubles don't seem as big. Now, compared to these people, there are well-known stories of very rich people or very successful people that committed suicide or destroyed their health and lives, or the lives of their loved ones, through addiction to alcohol or drugs. So this shows that for the most part, it's really about the attitude that we learn how to handle difficult situations in life. You can look at a funny video by Louis C.K. about complaining. It's about cell phones and flying, so it's on the website. So what can we say about a person that has some problems in their life and he deals with them destructively by complaining, focusing on the negative and suffering? The first thing that we should mention, and especially it's worthwhile for the person to mention it to themselves, is that they do not deserve to suffer. I mean, it's not fair that in addition to the fact that they need to handle the external problem in their life, they will also suffer in 4 additional ways. Psychological, emotional suffering, feeling bad all the time, that's 1. 2, medical, physical suffering. So there are a lot of studies that prove that mental and psychological suffering leads to physical suffering, such as difficulties sleeping and eating, addictions, and a wide array of diseases. 3, reducing his ability to handle the situation. It is harmed by the way that he's looking at the problem compared to a person that is handling their problems from optimism, determination, and a positive attitude for seeking solutions or accepting what cannot be changed. And so the negative approach reduces his chance of creating in reality results that actually can improve his situation. And 4, also the people around the neurotic person, even if they love him, eventually will not be able to bear his constant complaining and the fact that he's stuck like a broken record that always points only to the negative things in life. So in order to protect themselves psychologically, they naturally distance themselves from him or send him to speak to other people. So with a negative attitude, the person is not harmed only once from the actual problem in their life. They actually exacerbate the problem 4 times in 4 different ways, and it increases their trouble, and he has enough trouble as it is. Whoever is all the time stuck in anxiety and fears and worries and what will be, and it's catastrophic, and there are threats, and what will I do if such and such happens, and handling always constantly busy with thoughts about the things that they don't want, they only exacerbate in their mind, they only exacerbate the problem in their mind and makes it difficult for themselves to think about solutions. They make themselves feel worse. They get stuck in an endless cycle of negative thoughts, and they cannot get out of it. In such a way, they can become neurotic. Instead, the person who acts in a productive way, in a useful way, and makes a point out of constantly focusing himself again and again to think about what they do want instead of what they don't want, and they seek creative solutions how to solve the problem, they go and consult as many people as possible, but in a positive way, not in a complaining way, and they try any possible way that they can think of or run across. Instead of dealing with despair, they keep persistence and determination and resilience and focusing on what's positive and what's desired. This is the only way that can actually advance the person in real life to the desired situation. Whereas the neurotic person spends all their time sitting at home, eating himself with anxiety, and then has physical symptoms such as trembling, sweating, difficulty breathing, difficulty eating and sleeping, feeling stuck and suffering, until it reaches extended psychological treatments and even psychiatric pills against anxiety and depression. So, who is causing all these additional troubles to the person? So, it seems like the person himself is doing it to himself, but of course no one would knowingly cause himself more suffering and troubles and make his problems bigger. A person who is doing this simply acts out of lack of awareness and lack of knowledge. He is a slave to his patterns and ways of handling that are destructive and not productive, that he learned and absorbed from his family, his surrounding, and the culture in which he grew up. He does not know anything better because he acts based on the unsuccessful examples that he saw in other people throughout his life. He is a slave to the whims of chance and chance circumstances of his life. Another thing we can say about such a person, the best thing that he can do is to go and learn and study from those people that do handle difficult situations in a positive and constructive way, not necessarily in situations that are exactly like his, but generally learn better ways to deal with problems. And finally, after I saw all the troubles that other people have, especially those that live in poor countries or in poverty or under a dictatorship, or all the troubles of these people in the inspiring stories that I collected on the website, I say about each of my own problems, well, let these be my problems and not something worse. This helps me. Hopefully it might help you as well.